There's just to let people know that we are recording tonight's event, and the recording of tonight's public meeting will be put up on the bznwatershed.com website. So if you're unable to join us for the whole time, or you know of someone who wasn't able to join us this evening, they can definitely visit the website and participate and learn the things that we're going to discuss tonight. First, I'd like to welcome everyone who's joining us this evening. My name is Marna Daly, and I am standing in for Melody Miller this evening. And just to remind folks, this meeting is a follow-up to the one last March, where the city presented 3 options for accessing the Sourdough Trailhead area. Since that meeting, those options have been available for folks to weigh in on and give us their opinion on which option they are most comfortable with. The closures presented in the options are associated with the Bozeman Municipal Watershed Project and are a component of human health and safety concerns resulting from helicopter operations and activities occurring as a component of this project. At the last meeting in March, there were about 40 people who joined us, and the survey to determine which option people prefer received over 300 responses. So lots of folks weighed in on the options and let us know which one was more preferable to them. So before we move forward, I would like to ask our panelists to introduce themselves. So I'll start with Mitch, and then Mitch, if you wouldn't mind passing it over to Brian, that would be great.
Sure, thanks, Marna. I'm Mitch Reister. I'm the Director of Public Works for the City of Bozeman. And our project manager is Brian Heaston. So Brian, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Heaston, project manager here for the Sourdough Fuels Reduction Project.
Great, thank you, Mitch and Brian. Corey, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, good evening, folks. I'm Corey Llewellyn. I'm the district ranger for the Bozeman Ranger District with the Custer Gallatin National Forest, and joining the city tonight just in our partnership effort with the city to do fuel reduction work in the municipal watershed. So glad to be here.
Great, thank you, Corey. So without further ado, I would like to hand it over to Mitch, who's going to walk us through the presentation this evening. We're going to talk about the project itself, present the survey results, talk about next steps, and then open the floor to questions. So Mitch, over to you.
All right, thanks again, Marna. So just a quick recap of what the Bozeman Municipal Watershed Project is. As you can tell, it's a partnership between the city of Bozeman and the Forest Service. We're looking to reduce wildfire fuels in our main drinking watershed. So we get 80% of all the water for the city out of the Sourdough and Highlight watersheds. There's 2 pieces to it. There's the greater BMW, which is run by the Forest Service on forest lands, and then there's our city land. So we'll get to another map real quick, but just to kind of talk about the differences between those. The small orange section is actually the city land toward the, just up from the water treatment plant and the Sourdough Trailhead. That's what the city is actually looking at doing with our own separate contract, and the Forest Service will be dealing with a much larger section in both watersheds. So looking at, in terms of scope and scale, the city is looking at treating about 140 acres of forest to reduce fuels, prevent very catastrophic wildfires like we had in the Bridgers last year, where you get crown fires, very hot, catastrophic natures of destruction, and actually cauterizes the ground, denudes the soil, and causes, not only does that kill the trees, but it also creates a lot of runoff, a lot of sedimentation. When it comes to our water plant, we're really concerned with that. That can not only destroy the waterworks leading to the plant, but it can also clog the plant itself. And if that were to happen, we'd be looking at 2, maybe 3 days of water for the city of Bozeman. So that's really why we're here. This map shows the total scale of that. Forest Service is looking at treating a little over 2,000 acres again, and we're looking at about 140. And that's separated into a couple different pieces. So for the city, just under 80 acres of that's going to be mature timber removal in several sections. about 70% in those units. So these aren't clear cuts. These are trying to space out the trees. There hasn't been natural fire in most of this area in quite a long time, and so there's a lot of undergrowth, and tree spacing is pretty problematic for a fire to go from the ground into the canopy and cause that heat and damage that can actually be very catastrophic, as the Bridger fire was last year. So those are the goals. This is the general area, and we have 3 different phases to our project. A ground-based phase, which is about 6 to 8 weeks, where we're going to be working on the west side of the drainage in Sourdough. Then we have a helicopter operation that's going to be treating the rest of the area. And during that second phase is when we're looking at the public impacts, because we'll have to actually close that trail for a certain period of time due to safety. And the third final phase is actually basically cleaning up the ground, kind of like a Firewise effort where we're taking out ladder fuels, and those are smaller trees and brush. So getting to phase 2, which will happen this fall, probably about 6 to 8 weeks for the entire phase. But based on where that treatment is, we'll actually need to close the trail. So at our last meeting in March, we presented 3 different options, and we wanted to see what the public thought of those. The first option was a partial public access, which would last for about 4 weeks. So that'd be Monday through Friday, access only after 5 p.m. And then Saturdays and Sundays, there'd be full public access. Option 2 was was 5 weeks, with Monday through Thursdays having no access at all, and then full access for Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And then option 3 was the shortest duration of 3 weeks with a full closure to public access Monday through Sunday, but get the work done as quickly as we can, and then reopen the trail. I do want to mention that during those periods of time, while that is the closure perspective for these, for the Sourdough Trail itself, the work will still be ongoing. So there still will be cutting and logging activities within the watershed, not only for the Sourdough project, but for the greater BMW on forest lands. That will last for quite some time. But trail access for Sourdough is specifically what we were talking about in our engagement in March, and what we're here to report tonight. So what we heard, we had a great number of survey responses. 342 people went on our website and provided a response. Last meeting we had 40 plus participants and 60 video views, so quite a bit of interest there. We really appreciated that. Option 1 received about 31% of the favor from the public. Option 2, we had the least amount, with a little under 10%. And then option 3, which is the full closure for 3 weeks, the shortest duration but no access, actually was a kind of an overwhelming nearly 60%. And so again, that option, which basically we committed to, whichever option led in the polls, we would implement for phase 2 of the Sourdough project. So that will be at a point in time this fall, during that second phase, which the total phase should be 6 to 8 weeks. We will completely close the Sourdough Trail for approximately 3 weeks. And please understand that this is our target. We think we can get there, but weather and other things can always change that a little bit. So, it could be plus or minus a little bit of time, but in the scope of the other options, this is the shortest one, but it is a full public access closure. I'll turn it over to Brian for the next steps and what to expect.
Thanks, Mitch. That was a really nice summary of the project and our public engagement effort here, and the results. So to step through, what's next here for the project. As Mitch had mentioned, we will be moving forward with the effort in implementing option 3. That's the full closure option. Ideally, that lasts about 3 weeks, but as Mitch mentioned, things can come up related to weather and mechanical issues with the helicopters and such. So we're aiming for 3 weeks. Hopefully, we're able to accomplish that. This work is going to be occurring, this particular phase of the work, the helicopter treatment units, during the fall. of this year. To give a little more detail concerning the timeline and the impact here. So as Mitch described, there's 3 main phases of the project. Phase 1 is a ground-based treatment unit here. That work will begin during the summer of this year. While that ground-based treatment work is occurring, there will not be any disruption to the public use of Sourdough Canyon Trail. Phase 2 of the project is the helicopter treatment areas, and those helicopter treatment areas are kind of peppered throughout the city's 380-acre parcel here, shown in this kind of brighter green color on the screen. That work is anticipated to begin fall of this year. And kind of 2 main components of this helicopter work, we can kind of chunk it out into 2 parts. The first, well, the overall helicopter treatment effort itself is expected to last between 6 to 8 weeks to accomplish that helicopter work. The area that is shown here in the dash red line will be the helicopter treatment units that will require the trail closure itself to occur. The reason behind that is the helicopter will be flying cut logs from these treatment units over the trail and into a landing and decking location. And it's a hazardous activity, and we need the helicopter operator to be able to work in this area without the public in there as well. During the phase of the work, helicopter work, where treatment units are being worked on the west side of the trail, that overhead flight path crossing the trail itself is not going to occur. So the trail will remain open while the helicopter work is occurring on the west side of Sourdough Creek. So the public should expect periodic vehicular traffic on the trail itself, running vehicles up to the treatment or the intake location itself, as well as constant flight traffic over that 3 to 5 week period as that area of the project is worked on the west side of the creek. Phase 3, as Mitch mentioned, is hand crew treatments. That's designated here with this horizontal orange striped hatch on the map. The total acreage here in phase 1, 2, 3, as Mitch mentioned, roughly 130 acres thereabouts. There is future phase activity planned for additional hand crew treatment in the lighter green area that you see represented on the map. The total acreage of treatment between phase 1, 2, and 3, which will occur here this year and over the next, with the addition of the future phase treatment, puts the overall fuels reduction treatment area at about 325 acres. But again, just want to really stress and reiterate that it's only one component of the helicopter treatment work in which the trail closure will be occurring. And again, for about a 3-week period, weather dependent, while the rest of that helicopter work is happening on the west side of the creek, the trail is still going to be available for public use, but do expect heavy flight traffic occurring over that period.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Appreciate that. So I just want to thank everybody who's joined us this evening. We definitely welcome your questions. You can go to the Q&A tab on your screen and type them in there, and Marna will be moderating those and shipping those to one of the 3 of the rest of us, or maybe she'll take some of them herself, and we'll try to get those answers to you now. You can also go on our website, and that will be updated pretty continuously. That's going to be the best option for being updated on the project. Please share that with your friends and family or anybody who has an interest in it. Our public outreach and engagement we'll continue through this project, especially when we move toward implementation early in the summer. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Marna.
Great, thank you, Mitch. Thank you, Brian. While we're giving folks a moment to submit their questions, I just wanted to remind folks that on May 6th, the city and the Forest Service will be hosting a Facebook Live event from 5:30 to 6:30 to provide an overview and timeline of our implementation activities. So you can visit the Custer Gallatin Forest Facebook page or the city's Facebook page for the event invite. So we hope to see you there. We hope you'll join us. Please feel free to drop any questions you might have into the Q&A panel. There's not a lot of activity going on in the Q&A panel right now. Corey, would you like to add anything additional while we give folks a few minutes to submit their questions?
Sure, Marna. I would just add on to what Marna just mentioned briefly about the next Facebook Live series on May 6th. You know, there's a lot of various different activities associated with both the Forest Service and the city's implementation. And we want to continue to be very transparent and share as much information as we can when we can. And so that May 6th date will be an opportunity to get into even more detail and specifics about various different pieces of the project, including some implementation that's going to occur in Leverage Gulch starting this spring, some things in our prescribed fire program, as well as some of the mechanical treatments on national forests. So it'll be a great opportunity to dive into some more detail on project implementation.
Great, thanks, Corey. I'm still seeing no questions submitted in the Q&A. So if you have anything pressing, now's a great time. Otherwise, please go to our website at bznwatershed.com and you can submit questions there as well. And we'll have ongoing and updated question and answer, like a Q&A available on that website as well. So I'll open it up one more time. Anyone have any pressing questions they'd like to submit to the panelists this evening? Okay, Mitch or Brian, anything additional before we close it out for the night?
I don't have anything, Marna. I just want to again thank the folks for their interest and for continuing to give us feedback, especially on our website. So thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you all for joining us this evening, and we hope that you'll join us on May 6th from 5:30 to 6:30 for a Facebook Live event. And thank you for your time. We do appreciate it. Have a great evening, everyone.
Night.
Night.
Brian, don't forget to stop recording.